The wristband chimed when it closed around my daughter's skin. 2 soft notes, almost cheerful, and 2 green LEDs flared beside a tiny corporate logo. I had once pitched that same logo to my friends as the future of care, back when I believed Pleasant Hills really was the company brochure. Parks, drones, spotless streets, salaries that made you forgive ugly things. I wanted to believe again, as I tucked a stray curl behind Juliana's ear and followed the nurse's blue suit into the waiting room glow. Belief doesn't open doors. Codes do. There were more children than chairs. Their parents wore the same look I did. The face you make when you're counting breaths. The fluorescent lights washed everything flat, but the eyes pushed back. When the kids turned, the irises caught the light and held it. A thin film of red like a photograph that had learned a new way to bleed. It wasn't theatrical. It was wrong in a quiet, technical way. Like an LED with the polarity reversed, but somehow still lit. No alerts on the regional feed. No public health banner. Only rumor. A kids-only bug. For now. The phrase mapped itself onto the ceiling tiles and wouldn't leave. The triage nurse's clipboard made swift strokes. Identification. I handed over my driver's license and my work badge. The work badge got a longer stare. Symptoms. I heard myself listing them as if I were reading from someone else's life. Red eyes. Off-timed laughter. Strange phrases. No cravings. The last word stuck. At breakfast, Juliana had smiled at a slice of toast, as if it might bite back. I pressed a swallow down. No cravings, I repeated, and tasted the lie. The nurse's gaze scrubbed me down to the seams. Something about her stance suggested practice, like she had rehearsed this specific fear and didn't enjoy being right. She wrote quickly again. How long? 20 minutes for the red, I said. The rest? Today, wristband. Wait there. Don't touch anything. Her voice had the frankness of a storm siren. The band chimed. The logo winked. The room decided we belonged. Juliana's attention drifted to a pile of picture books, the way a compass needle settles. A nearby woman stood up so fast her chair squealed and rolled away, an instinctive retreat like heat skittering off oil. I wanted to be angry at her, but the anger came pre-packaged with understanding. Fear makes room for contradictions. Juliana picked a bright book and scanned it with her new red eyes moving like fast metronomes. When the woman continued to stare, my daughter turned and hissed, a sound too feral for the alphabet, and snapped her teeth. I pulled her back with a name sharp enough to cut. She returned to the book, as if the moment were a page she'd finished and set aside. A father with 2 children sat across from us, in Sunday clothes that looked imported from a calmer day. His kids watched me over their clasped hands and smiled, polite and empty. Their teeth seemed wrong in a way my brain couldn't calibrate, as if the room's light sharpened edges where there shouldn't be edges. Even their stillness felt like a rehearsal for motion. "Winters, Juliana," called a voice from the ER door, bisecting the moment. The nurse wore a respirator, goggles, gloves, and a full-body suit the color of caution tape drowned in the sky. The sign on the door behind her read, "Negative pressure room," which is medical for, the air goes inward and does not come back out. She grabbed the book, I said, and hated how apologetic I sounded. "Keep it," the nurse replied, unconcerned, which worried me more than if she demanded a hazmat bag. She ushered us into the room and sealed the door with a hiss, the sound a building makes when it chooses sides. "Should I have a mask?" I asked through the glass. "Probably," she said from the other side, already unlatching her gear. But if there's exposure, it's already happened." She disappeared into the tangle of motion beyond the window, scrubs and clipboards, and the quick choreography of overfilled shifts. And then it was just us, contained and watched, 2 exhibits in a clear box. Juliana sat cross-legged on the floor, book open, once again, a child who had learned peace by imitation. I thought of germs in carpet fibers and bit the words back. The quiet made a shape around us. For a breath, her eyes looked almost normal, until she glanced up and the red caught, like a bad truth finding light. The overhead speaker popped with feedback, a sound like the building clearing its throat. A woman's voice arrived twice as loud as necessary. "Code Crimson in effect. Code Crimson in effect. All security personnel to the emergency waiting area now." It repeated, then cut, and the room grew a new kind of silent. "What's Code Crimson, Dad?" Juliana asked. "Not fire," I said, because that's all I knew. "Just read your story." A scream rose and receded outside like a wave you hope will break before it reaches you. I stood, looking through the big window. Nothing. My heartbeat answered with hard knocks through my throat. A figure in pale green sprinted past the glass, her forearm painting the wall red as she ran. For a second, my mind edited the blood out and then put it back. Brighter. Gunshots signed their names somewhere down the corridor. The word machine gun arrived in my head without my permission. "Down," I said to Juliana, hauling her behind a heavy chair and making a bunker out of upholstery and denial. The gunfire moved like weather. Closer, lower, the clattering kind that breaks objects you thought were stable. A picture frame popped in the hallway, and I counted without meaning to. 1, 2, 3. "Like seconds or angels, I'm hungry," Juliana whispered. A simple complaint stolen from a safe universe. "Not now. Please." I hated hearing my fear become prayer. I risked a glance through the glass. 3 figures in black armor fell back in a line, weapons up, security enforcement officer stamped in white. Their names gleamed under their throats like dog tags pretending to be polite. Something flew at them, a shadow with elbows, and collided with a guard so hard his gun traced a useless arc as he went down. The impact sounded like an answer to a question we hadn't asked yet. They were children. Dozens. The red-eyed kids from the waiting room with their smiles, unthread and their limbs running on the floor like they had learned a better way to be human. Nurses and doctors tried to become walls and failed. A boy leapt and clung. A girl crawled under a gurney and came out wrong. The room outside our room became a study in the color red. The lights went out. I heard the power die like a breath held too long. In the absolute dark, Juliana's voice brushed my ear. "I'm so hungry." The emergency strip lights blinked to life overhead, pouring a cold dim over angles that didn't deserve to be seen. I turned and my daughter was already moving, smiling with too many edges, her teeth lengthening in a way that teeth do not, unless the rules have changed and nobody thought to tell you. "Stop," I said. "Calm like a glass table is calm. Don't come closer." Something hit the window behind me. I swung around to catch the impact in time to see spiderweb fractures radiating from a teenage boy's forehead as he threw it again and again at the glass. His eyes twin coals, his grin an injury. Each blow left a halo of cracks that sang softly as they spread. The sound was unreal and practical at the same time, like someone breaking a rule and a window. The reflection saved me. In the shattered mirror of the glass, I saw my daughter's body tighten for a lunge. I ducked. She struck. The window let go. The two kids tangled and disappeared through the newborn hole in the world. Limbs and glass scrambling toward me on all fours. The part of my brain that plans vacations shut down. The part that gets you out of burning buildings took the wheel. I jumped through the window. The glass became teeth and the floor became a mouth. My palms filled with heat and bright points. I ran. Behind me, the sound of pursuit was fast and wrong. Hands that had forgotten to walk. I slipped in a puddle the size of a decision and went down hard, my back groaning like old wood. A voice behind me shouted, "Stay down!" and lost a volley. Not bullets, needles, green-filled darts stitching the air. Several thunked into tile, two into flesh, and for a heartbeat I thought relief had a colour. The kids turned as one and went for the shooter. I saw armour peel away like bark. I saw a hand reach toward a voice that was busy screaming. It ended as quickly as a sentence with a period. I ran. The doors dividing the ER from the waiting room were metal and mildly kinder than the walls. I hammered my fists against them and found a camera blinking at me. Not bitten. I yelled because apocalypse folklore is sticky. Let me out. The doors thought about it. Then they opened. Two armored guards hauled me through, and the doors closed, as if embarrassed to have hesitated. Through the narrowing gap, I saw my daughter sprinting toward us, her mouth shining like she had found a new way to eat. The metal sealed and changed shape. A child's skull dented it from the other side, as neat as an impression in wet clay. "My daughter," I said to the guards, voice wrong. "She's in there." "It's us you should worry about," one said, and I finally noticed the shutters. Thick steel slid down over windows and doors like eyelids with opinions. The overhead PA returned, this time with a voice that was not pretending to be human. Code Crimson lockdown protocols in effect. Shelter in place. Do not approach the infected. Do not attempt to reason with the infected or make eye contact. Assistance is en route. Do not panic. The door to the ER buckled again. A seam opened. Something red looked back. "Peekaboo, Daddy!" Juliana sang through the gap. Voice small, joy bright. Her eyes filled the slit like a sun you shouldn't look at. The color of it wasn't a color I knew how to describe to a doctor. It was the color of a yes you'd regret. I pressed my palm to the metal because I'm built of old instincts. The door hummed with the combined voices of 100 decisions. Somewhere beyond the steel, the building had chosen my daughter. Somewhere on this side it had chosen me. Between the choices, a gap waited and smiled. "Please," I said, and the door did not answer. Because doors only answer to codes. Hospitals have their own time zones. Clocks tick, but minutes move the way syrup drips, slow, sticky, unreliable. I'd been staring at one for so long that its second hand seemed to stutter every time I blinked. Maybe it was stuttering for real. Maybe the drugs made it look that way. My wrists ached against the metal cuffs that chained me to the bed. I'd been told the restraints were for my own safety. That's what people say right before they take away your choices. The taller cop stood by the window, watching a thunderstorm roll toward the city. His partner leaned against the wall, twirling a pen like he was bored at a dentist's office. The smell of antiseptic fought a losing battle against sweat and cheap coffee. "So," the taller one said finally, "you really thought you could sell a pound of that stuff to an undercover officer?" "Look," I sighed, "it's medicinal, technically." "Technically," he repeated, smirking. "You know what else is technical? 20 years. His partner shot him a look that said ease up. Then to me, quieter. "Kid, you got bigger problems than a bad sale. Somebody doesn't want you alive tonight. That snapped the room's air in half. Who? He rubbed his temples. Name's Verano. Old school family type. Our guys intercepted a call and said a cleanup crew was headed there. If they walk through that door, you won't make it to the arraignment. Before I could answer, the hospital speaker cracked alive. Attention, please. Code lockdown is in effect. The taller cop froze. Lockdown. What kind? No answer, just the hiss of static swallowing the voice. Stay put, he said, and jogged into the hall. His footsteps faded fast, swallowed by echo. The older cop, grey hair, glacier blue eyes, peered through the blinds, muttering, "Phone's dead, radio's half dead. Feels like a bad rerun." The radio on his belt sputtered, 10:32. Breathing heavy, secure the prisoner for transport. Then silence. Gunfire cracked somewhere distant, 3 pops. Then a long volley that made the walls vibrate. The clock above the bed kept ticking, oblivious. Back up! The cop barked into his radio. Nothing. Verano bought himself a dispatcher. He said grimly, "Kid, if you can move, move." "Hard to move when I'm gift-wrapped," I snapped, rattling the chains. After a pause, he tossed me the keyring. "Make it count." My fingers shook too hard to find the hole. The cuffs clinked like coins falling into a wishing well. I'd just freed one ankle when the door exploded inward in a hurricane of light and noise. A figure stepped through the smoke, mask over his face, both hands full of pistols that coughed fire. The cop fired back once, just once, before the bullets took him apart mid-sentence. His blood hit me in a hot mist. I tasted iron and disbelief. "Pretty smart," the man in the mask said, lowering one gun. "Faking a psych transfer. You made us work for it. I managed to free my other leg." "Who sent you?" "You already know." He circled, boots squeaking on antiseptic tile. "I have to admit, though, you got style. Most rats hide. You came to the one place with locks on every door." He raised the barrel to my face. I could see my reflection trembling in its black mirror. "Any last words?" "Yeah," I said, breath hitching. "I see things." He tilted his head. "What kind of things?" "Things that shouldn't exist. And once I see them..." I hesitated, sensing the tremor behind my ribs. They stopped pretending. For a heartbeat, the air smelled of ozone. The fluorescent lights flickered once, twice. Then one of them burst with a sound like snapping ice. The killer spun toward the noise. "What did you..." A locker stood in the corner now. It hadn't been there before. Faded green paint, high school style, dented and old. A combination lock dangled from its handle, spinning slowly on its own. "What the hell is that?" he demanded. I swallowed hard. "It's the thing from my dreams." The locker door creaked open. Inside was darkness that felt heavy, as if it had been storing weight instead of air. A laugh came out, childlike, giddy, wrong. "Stop it!" the assassin shouted. "You're doing this!" "It's not me." From the dark stepped a clown, tall, impossibly thin, dressed in white polka dots and red stains. Its eyes were mirrors of teeth, its grin an injury stretching ear to ear. The gunman staggered back. "Dave," he whispered. "Dave said you weren't real." The clown's smile widened. "I told you," I said. "Once I see them, they see you too." The killer fired, wild, desperate. Bullets vanished into the dark inside the locker as though swallowed. Then the floor opened beneath him, a rectangle of raw soil yawning where linoleum should be. He dropped, screaming, into the earth that shouldn't be there. Dirt filled the hole by itself, shoveling downward sounds, muffling everything. The clown bent, slid the knife between its teeth, and dove in after him. Silence returned, too clean. When I blinked, the floor was smooth again, the smell of soil replaced by disinfectant. I freed the last cuff and staggered to the doorway. The hall flickered under emergency lights. A few nurses crouched behind the desk, pale and shaking. "Is it safe?" one asked. I almost said yes. Then a nearby closet door eased itself open, black inside, and a soft laugh bubbled out. "No," I whispered. "Not even close." The laughter multiplied, overlapping like echoes in a funhouse. For a second, every metal door along the hallway shivered. Lockers that hadn't existed a moment ago, all beginning to open at once. And I realized what the voice in my head had been trying to tell me all along. Once you let fear take shape, it learns your name. The first rule they teach you in any military hospital is simple. Never ask what happened at the base. If a truck full of burned men arrives at 2 a.m., you patch them up, you sign the chart, and you forget every sound they made. But forgetting gets harder when the walls hum. The humming started the night of the explosion at the containment wing of Area 51. Officially, it was a pressure seal failure. Unofficially, it turned the quietest medical unit in Nevada into a war zone of IVs and shouted names. By dawn, the corridors looked like trenches made of stainless steel, gurneys jammed against one another, oxygen tanks hissing like snakes. I was on my 22nd straight hour when they rolled in patient P113. We called him Peter because numbers make people sound like furniture. Half his body was wrapped in polymer bandages that gleamed purple under the UV lamps. The other half, what was left, seethed beneath his skin, as if something were moving under it. His left arm was gone below the elbow. His heartbeat, though, was stronger than any we'd seen. "Electrical activity off the charts," said Dr. Baum, our attending. He looked like a man who'd stopped sleeping years before. "Keep the drip steady, don't touch the bag, and if he wakes, sedate him again." The bag was filled with a green fluid that glowed faintly in the dark. No label, just a code, HX Serum 42. I asked quietly, "What is it?" He didn't look at me. "Experimental. That's all you need to know." Hours blurred. The hum in the walls grew louder until it matched the rhythm of Peter's pulse. Every time the monitor beeped, the fluorescent lights flickered. At 03:17, his oxygen dropped. Respirations 8, pulse 40. I checked the tubing, checked his airway, and the textbook. Nothing helped. "Doctor," I said into the intercom, "patient P113 is declining fast. Request Narcan protocol." His voice came back like gravel. "Negative. Maintain sedation. Restart the drip." "Sir, if we don't..." "That's an order, nurse." He cut the line. The monitor shrieked. Peter's chest stilled. Then came a new sound. Something wet, something slithering just beneath bone. I pressed my stethoscope to his ribs. What I heard wasn't a breath or a heartbeat. It was a movement. When the pulse resumed, it was no longer human. The veins in his left shoulder darkened from purple to black. The color spread upward, branching like rivers on a map. The air smelled ionized, like the moment before lightning hits. "Peter," I whispered, "can you hear me?" His eyes opened. The whites were gone, replaced by a violet swirl that seemed to rotate on its own axis. Every machine in the room spiked. The HX serum bag emptied itself in seconds, as though sucked dry from the inside. The vines erupted from the stump of his arm, thick, luminous tendrils, slick with some fluid that steamed on contact with air. They lashed out, finding anchor points, the IV pole, the bed frame, the ceiling vents. I hit the emergency button. Nothing. The alarm had already been severed. The vines wrapped Peter's torso, lifting him upright like a puppet suspended by invisible strings. He floated, eyes rolling back, mouth open in a silent scream that filled the room with pressure. The lights shattered one by one, showering glass. I tried to run, but a tendril caught my ankle and yanked me down. Another coiled my neck, squeezing until the edges of the world went soft and blue. Every heartbeat pumped new colors into my vision: green, violet, ultraviolet. Then, as quickly as it had seized me, it released. Peter's head turned toward the shattered window. Outside, the desert wind howled, carrying grains of sand that glowed faintly green in the moonlight. The vines surged toward the opening, eager, almost joyful. He climbed through, not walking, gliding into the night. The tendrils followed like banners, vanishing into the storm. I lay gasping on the floor until the door burst open. Security swept in, spraying white mist from tanks on their backs. The mist froze everything it touched: vines, blood. Even the air seemed to crystallize. "Containment!" someone shouted. "Seal this section now." I coughed through the frost and watched them drag canisters the size of coffins into the room. Then came the hiss of liquid nitrogen, the crack of ice sealing metal. When it was over, the only sound was the hum returning to the walls. They debriefed us the next morning, if you can call threats a debrief. We signed non-disclosure forms thicker than Bibles. Dr. Baum's name disappeared from the staff directory an hour later. I heard a rumor that he was transferred, another word for erased. I was discharged 3 weeks later for psychological fatigue. The scars on my throat tell a different story. I tried to forget. I moved states, changed my name. But sometimes when the wind hits just right, I hear that same low hum under my skin, like something remembering me. And lately, there's been talk online of strange plant growths in the desert, glowing at night, spreading fast. The government says it's a radiation bloom. I know better. Whatever left that hospital is still alive. It's learning. And if it ever figures out how to grow roots deep enough to reach our cities, lockdowns won't mean anything, because this time the infection isn't looking for hosts. I'm looking for a home, 3 hospitals, 3 lockdowns, 3 doors that closed and never opened again. Different stories, same pulse, fear, sealed in metal rooms, waiting for someone to listen. Maybe every building learns from the screams inside it. Maybe that's why the next time a siren wails and the hallway lights turn crimson, the doors close a little faster. Or maybe the hum we hear isn't machinery at all. Maybe it's everything we've tried to bury, beating, breathing, remembering. And somewhere behind a sealed door, a voice you once loved still whispers, "Peekaboo."